All right, this PowerPoint is about Albert Einstein, whom Yah regards as the most celebrated moron. And the point about what...
Theory of relativity, it's all dependent on the speed of light being static.
Constant, yeah. E equals mc squared.
All the equations of the world is based on that.
Yeah.
And they have no idea.
Which gives rise to the theory of evolution, the Big Bang, all that, the static theory, and is why in the document we gave to ASIC that the universities are literally shut down until evolution is expunged from the record and they begin teaching intelligent design, truth. All right, moving right along. So, look, this is the second PowerPoint. Yesterday was supposed to be about Einstein, but anyway. The most respected man of science all time was Albert Einstein. He unwittingly took the Darwinian world by storm. He, a moron, had concluded the speed of light was the same throughout the universe. It was constant. He explained that gravity bends space-time like space, likening space to a trampoline stretched out, with the sun and planets bending space-time. The moon, for example, sits in a groove and rolls around the Earth. Likewise, the planets around the sun roll. This is what drives Yah insane. Morons. There it is, the cosmic trampoline, according to...
That's what they teach in universities.
Yeah, totally.
Look at a trampoline. There it is.
Here it is.
Drop a ball on it, what happens? It goes straight to the centre.
It's sucked in.
And that is showing intelligent students how gravity works according to Einstein.
All right. Here the sun is moving at 69,000 kilometres per hour. The planets spiral behind it, gravity pulling on the planets. It's not quite right. It is the Earth sitting on the axis of the universe. The sun orbits around that axis, and it is described as the geocentric model, which is explained later. However, the planets never catch up spiraling around that gravity point. If they did, it would be game over, like the trampoline effect, the ball rolling and is sucked into the sun. Hello. So the reality is that the solar system moves back and forth across the Milky Way equatorial line, moving at 43,200 miles or 69,000 kilometers per hour. Creation and movement occurred. We read in the ancient and unknown oldest book of the Bible, the book of Job, in 26:7. He stretches out the north over the empty place and hangeth the earth upon nothing.
No movement, just sits there.
The earth, rather the empty place, is before the stars and galaxies were formed. Then the stars and planets were created. The planets near the earth would have, in the ludicrous trampoline idea, been drawn in toward the Earth-universe axis. But then the Earth began to move, falling southward to drag the planets behind it, crossing the equatorial line of the newly created Milky Way galaxy, meaning it dropped from the creation point in the north, or in other words, the fall of Adam, Adama, the Earth, falling south.
Do you think that's too difficult for them?
How many times have we... Anyway. Time began. The Earth was formed from its centre as it was caused to pass from the heavenly no-time plane, expanding to its position in time. Then the sun emerged. It entered time with "Let there be light," as it began converting hydrogen into helium at a rate of 657 million tonnes per second, 4.5 million tonnes as heat and light, and 652.5 million tonnes of helium. Now, 657 is the verse total within the New Testament. Lord is found in 657 verses, and this is in Yah's Compute Bible Chris Epps program of the 1611 KJV. His tool given into his hand to decode the matrix for a dumbed down mankind led around by the nose by the intelligence agencies at the top, which is just an oxymoron. So the Earth was falling from its creation point, and the Sun began orbiting it as the Earth sits on the gravity line, as the galaxy and all of the universe was created, moving away from the Earth as the heavens were stretched out faster and faster. Every star has the same 657 number, producing a red shift light, speeding ever faster away from Earth in all directions. Nothing to stop light as the stars formed.
So as you wander out at night and look up, there's all these wonderful stars, and they're all burning at the same Lord rate. So here's the Lord all over you, the Lord of hosts, looking at you. You think we don't know what's going on? It's all a matter of time. Time has to reach a certain point, and then it's over. And that's now.
So the Earth falling south, followed by the Sun and planets, reaching the point where the Milky Way galaxy Coriolis effect slowed the fall of the solar system, and it began to move back northwards like a pendulum. Now the atomic weight of hydrogen, the Sun conversion of hydrogen to helium, is 1.0080. This number, 1008, is House of God. From 1004 and 410, House of God, Bethel, or a place in Palestine, Bethel. In the Greek, 1008 is from 1006 and means herbage. It's pronounced botany, as if for grazing herb. And Yah lived on Botany Road and attended school on Botany Road in the suburb of Botany,
And my
Sydney.
mother conceived on Gardener's Road.
Exactly.
Who was the gardener? As Martha was looking for her husband at night under a full moon, and she saw the bloodless Jesus standing there, white as...
Looking like an old man.
Absolutely.
As you are today.
Thank you very much.
The Ancient of Days. Yeah. This movement has occurred 6 times over a period of 6,000 years, times 6 for 36,000 years total. We crossed back over that equator line like a pendulum, moving back north, crossing this time on December the 11th, 2011. 365 plus 10 days, 375 days before the astronomer's date predicted the 21st of December 2012, Mayan calendar time. The Mayan calendar was angelic, calculating time to within 33 seconds of the moon orbit in 500 million years. Doesn't mean that's the age of the universe or anything. It's just that's how precise the calculation was as a mathematical calculation. Man naturally assumed time in billions of years. However, the Gregorian calendar had 10 days added to it. This is under Pope Gregory, 1582, when he was told by his astronomers, oh, sundial is up by about 10 days. So, okay, we fixed the problem. It was really a keep it simple, stupid problem that was fixed very, very quickly. October the 4th, the next day, instead of becoming October the 5th, became October the 15th.
So January the 1st, which the moron was born on, the next year was January the 11th.
That's right.
Hey.
Hello, Creation Day, January the 1st. So they didn't have the concept of zero going from BC to AD, so that's where the other 365 days was missing. So then researchers would have us believe of the Mayan, their blood-drenched priests, while taking a break from butchering thousands of slaves covered in blood, stopped to calculate the cosmos. It was created by angels, as were all of the wonders throughout the earth. Now, reading in Isaiah 48:10, behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee, in the furnace of affliction. Now, silver is the reference to
Reincarnation.
right.
7 times. What happens when you boil silver or gold? All the dross comes to the surface, and you skim it off and let it cool down.
Right.
Then you do it again.
Yes.
Each time, more and more, until you have no dross on the surface, and then you've been refined. In the same way as your soul is refined, come back to the earth, you've either made it or you haven't.
Yeah.
Then Christ comes to the earth, who, incidentally, if you're not sure, is God. We'll cover that in a moment. For judgment. So Jesus says, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Are you joking, Jesus? Are you joking? You're telling me, your Father, I'm going to judge. And they know exactly what they do.
Yes. Hence their fear. All right. So Isaiah 45:12, it tells you right here, I have made the earth and created man upon it. Created man upon it. I, even my hands, have stretched out the heavens, and all their host, meaning the stars, have I commanded.
Einstein missed that.
So yeah, in purple, royalty, I am here, says Yah. Well, how about the next verse? I have raised him up in righteousness. Who's that? Well, that's Yahweh. And I will direct all his ways. He shall build my city, Australia, and he shall let go my captives, not for price nor reward, saith the Lord of hosts.
Future prophecy.
Yes.
Incidentally, Kirribilli House, I want all the shitters pulled out, because I'm not setting my arsehole where those other arseholes have been.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Talk about having to exorcise. Yeah. Now, looking at James, New Testament 3:17. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality, which is numbered 87, and without hypocrisy. So 87 in the Greek concordance. Why 87? Well, this takes us over to Cook and Tahiti. So we're going to digress for a little bit. That will bring us back to Einstein. Cook discovered an 11-tiered pyramid on Tahiti, which was called King George III Island, which had been discovered by Captain Wallis, who arrived there 666 days before Cook. He, Wallis, then sailed on to Easter Island, which was discovered Easter Day in 1722, and he counted there 888 statues. Jesus, Greek gematria.
April 5th.
Yeah, it was April the 5th, Easter Sunday that day. So Cook measured the pyramid, the 11-tier pyramid on Tahiti. Its footprint was 87 feet by 267 feet. And that equals 23,229 square feet. And then the pyramid on Tahiti, what was the big deal about it? The Admiralty sent ships to destroy it some 18 years later. But why? Well, that pyramid, the 11-tiered pyramid, let's see, you were reborn the 11th day of January, the first month. So you've got 1 pyramid, 11 tiers. So you've got the first, meaning January, the 11th day. And its footprint tells a story. This is how Yah reads the book, the earth.
I should say that's how I created it.
Well, yeah, create it, and then only you can read it. 23,229 square feet is the footprint. However, in days, it is 63.6 years, or 63.59 to be exact, and is the age that Grandfather Golightly was when I was born. So that leads us over to Isaiah 63 verses 1 through 6. Why art thou red in thine apparel? Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel? Those verses, treading the winepress alone. 63:5-9 in the Hebrew Concordance, though, means open, that is unoccupied and free. Well, what is open, unoccupied and free? Well, how about the King of Kings on the earth? Every other, even though Elizabeth sits still, according to even today's report, she's going to hand it over to Charles in 2021. Today.
It's very difficult to do since he's married to a Catholic.
Oh, they changed the rules though.
Oh, did they?
Yes, they've already changed the rules.
Okay,
and for female ascension, all that. They've changed all the rules. However,
desperate.
they are totally. The earth is yours and all that is in it. So by this time, this is 1769, Satan had taken over the Admiralty with the Rothschild invasion when they ordered Parliament to behead Charles I, which happened in 1649. Oliver Cromwell had begged the bankers in Amsterdam for money. The deal was that he would murder Charles but keep their influence out of it. Parliament charged Charles with being a tyrant and tried on the 27th of January. He was found guilty and then beheaded 3 days later on the 30th, 1649. The night before, he wrote a letter for his children saying he was going to be with Christ in paradise. So Yah says, my criminal nephew was born exactly 314 years later on January 27th, 1963. He travelled to Europe and the love of his life was to marry, but first returned to Australia and sell the farm. However, being the turd that he is, he went to a brothel in Amsterdam, was drugged up and carried ecstasy back into Australia. Before his trip, Yah says, I told the idiot not to be involved in drugs, but as I am only the uncle who thinks he is Christ, he ignored me. Caught at Sydney Airport, he was sentenced to 5 years. Out of jail, after 3.5, he tells me he would not have been caught, but it was just so happened the most wanted man on Interpol owned by Rothschild was a man with the same name as his, Stephen Andrew Marshall. He told me he lost his love, and the first day in jail, what to do? He wanders through the library, a book tumbles from a shelf, opened on page 222. He reads it, and it described how the executioner had hacked off the head of Charles I. January the 30th, 1649. Yah says, moron, I told you it was you that was the most wanted. Getting back to the pyramid on Tahiti, all that remains to this day is the footprint, albeit overgrown, but still easily measured, as did Cook, 87 by 267 feet. 23,229 square feet. So as Cook discovered and measured it, he was unaware that Mount Orahena towered 7,353 feet high. However, if you go to Google Earth today, its height has suddenly lost over 2,000 feet. I wonder why. Because the Shroud of Turin measures 7,353 square inches.
Actually, I looked at it the other day. It's gained 2,000.
It's gained 2,000.
Up to 9,000 feet high now.
Oh, has it? Oh, I'm joking. Oh, they're hopeless. Like the cross I built at the back of this home at 103 North Shore Avenue, Toogoom, erased from the Google Earth photographs. How stupid Satan is. There's Mount Orahena there, Tahiti.
There's the numbers there. 2,973 metres.
Right.
9,000 feet. I was there during the solar eclipse in
67, was it?
67.
November the 2nd, wasn't it?
I drove around the whole island with about 9 others.
Yeah. All right, so measuring. the white line is to where the 11-tiered pyramid is. 4,990 miles, Saviour, God or Christ, Deliverer. Now the latitude is 17.76 degrees south, and so if you divide that by 2, you get 888. Or look at the way Yah's got it written, 2 times 888 is 1776. Here is the 11-tiered pyramid.
This was drawn by one of the men that had been with Cook at that time, and it's reasonably accurate.
Yeah. Right. So here we have on the left, Grandfather Golightly, 5th of June 1880, and then 23,229 days later, Yah is reborn, January 11th, 1944. On the right, though, is really interesting. It's the marriage date between Daphne, the daughter of Grandfather Golightly, she the vehicle that the Christ child is born through. They marry July the 20th, 1934. And she conceives the Christ child, the man-child of the Revelation, on April the 6th, 1943, the 1910th anniversary from the resurrection. 1943, yes, which happens to be 454 weeks and 4 days, which is the height of the pyramid to the summit platform, 454 feet, 5.83 inches. And the year 1880 in the Greek concordance means to return, come back again. And yes, Grandfather Golightly has a daughter, Daphne Golightly. It is through her that Yahweh is able to return and come again. And yes, so Ron was already conceived by Daphne on their marriage date, July 20th. He was born 25th of February 1935. So he was in the womb about, 60 days at this point.
Something like that.
Yeah. So Yah says, my mother conceived of the Holy Ghost, April 6, 1943. 3,182 days after she married Reg Marshall. And there's those figures there. Reg knew he was not my father. He, an idiot, could count. And there was no intercourse due to the doctor's orders. Daphne's kidney was blamed for no more children, and being Catholic, that meant abstinence. I called him, says Yah, wrong way, Reg, always wrong. He'd wired up a vacuum cleaner. I told him he had red hot wire on the frame. This is as a 4-year-old. And so Reg says, shut up, big mouth, know all. You would argue with Christ. And Yah says, you are. And of course, the vacuum cleaner ended up killing the woman next door, and Yah discovered her body. And the date of that happening was Tuesday, November the 14th, 1948. And Yah remembers because it was, he was told by his mother that it was Prince Charles' birthday. Yeah. So the pyramid, the altar to the Lord with the capstone in place, has a completed height of 484.9 feet.
Of course, 8 days later, he was circumcised by a top Jewish rabbi. I wonder why.
Yeah, totally. Now, getting back to Einstein. He said that he read the Gospels when he was 32, even though he'd been raised in a Jewish, non-religious family, attended a Catholic school. This tells us the Gospels were not taught in Catholic schools. Yah attended 2 of them, and he didn't once hear the Gospels. He went to St. Bernard's on Botany Road and St. Michael's Morris Brothers, not a word about Jesus. And despite growing up as a Jew, Einstein admits to being enthralled by the luminous figure of the Nazarene. And that's a quote from What Life Means to Einstein.
He was 32 when he first read it.
As he got older, Einstein began to fall away from his faith and has soon become enthralled in the sciences. So Yah was conceived 4,910 days later In the Hebrew Concordance 49:10 is the word marshal, meaning to rule and to reign. Yes, so the 4,910 days later was from the date of the article. It was written October in 1929. Yah says it isn't much, but it demonstrates how the truth of Jesus is apparent to anyone, atheists included, when it is approached with an open heart and mind. George Virick said, "You accept the historical acceptance of Jesus." Einstein responds, "Unquestionably. No one can read the Gospels without feeling the actual presence of Jesus. His personality pulsates in every word. No myth is filled with such life. How different, for instance, is the impression which we receive from an account of legendary heroes of antiquity like Theseus and other heroes of this type lack the authentic vitality of Jesus." During an interview by George Sylvester Virick, cited above, Einstein had the following to say about Jesus. Quote, "No man," Einstein replied, "can deny the fact that Jesus existed, nor that his sayings are beautiful, even if some of them have been said before. No one has expressed them so divinely as he." Amen, Einstein, amen. Now, fate played its part. Einstein would mold the evolutionist world by his static state of non-accelerating speed of light. Yah says, "I chose well with Albert." And yes, we uploaded hundreds of videos showing the swing of the moon face up to 180 degrees, turning its face, and then water draining in the reverse direction over a 7-year period. This is caused by what is known as the Coriolis effect of the galaxy, and many of those videos have been removed over the years, or we've been shut out of the channels, and it's, I wonder why. However, the Earth moves along the universe axis, and the Sun orbits the same Earth-universe axis point, it being the center of the universe. And even the idiot Edwin Hubble looked out into space and pondered that it must be wrong, meaning Einstein's theory must be wrong, as the galaxies in all directions centered the Earth as the universe center. So what's the solution? Oh, simply lie. Lie, rather than to say that the speed of light is not speeding up. Big problem though, Christ is back, and Yah says, "For me it's so childish. It's like naughty children being caught out." The idea of the static speed of light is so stupid. When I first investigated this theory, it was obvious that modern astronomers are all wrong. The speed of light was accelerating, but Darwinian evolutionists must not agree, since if it speeds up, that eliminates evolution and confirms a young Earth creation. With the accepted speed of light being fixed as a constant, then light as seen by astronomers, they then do calculate the age of the universe at 13.7 billion years, based on how long light would take to arrive from distant galaxies at the slow and constant speed of light accepted today. So then, calculating back from this distance, the red shift discovered by the idiot Edward Hubble, who invited Einstein to his telescope on Mount Wilson in January 1931, Einstein peered through the eyepiece and said, "This," meaning his theory of constant speed of light, "was my greatest mistake." Why? What did he realize? His theory, therefore the whole equation was wrong. Speed of light is not constant. So all calculations are out. End of story. Moron. So Yah says what he saw was this: looking in all directions from the Earth, and it was later confirmed in Australia, was the red shift of galaxies, all of them arrayed in layers of rings, spherical regions like onion rings, with a distance of 250 million light years apart. Then empty space and another ring or sphere and another ring, to everything, all the rings and spheres, each 250 million light years apart. Therefore, looking in any direction from the Earth, 250 million light years, the galaxies changed as the light is further away, resulting in a change in the colour, which indicated the further out away from the Earth, the redder the light is observed. In other words, the Earth was the centre of the universe, and light was speeding up as it moved away.
But because they're 250 million light years apart, it means it was created instantly.
Yes.
Otherwise, the ones further out would be further than 250 million years.
Right.
Light years. Anyway.
Now, as for Edwin Hubble, he spoke with a bullshit English accent, believing it was more impressive. His observations had originally believed the galaxy was all there was and that the Milky Way was 1/3 its actual width. So at 100,000 light years, the distance around, so we're talking about the circumference of the galaxy times pi is pi, because 100,000 times pi gives you pi. Now the number 3141, which is in the Greek concordance, is evidence or witness. An example found in Luke 22:71, and they said, "What need we any further witness? For we ourselves have heard of his own mouth." Now Yah says if we form a pyramid from the 100,000 times pi circumference or perimeter, the height of the pyramid would be 50,000 light years. And that's a witness to the 50th layer of masonry, which is the floor to the king's chamber of the altar to the Lord, the Great Pyramid. Now, if we divide, this is interesting, if we divide pi by 4, we get 0.7854 rounded. And that's the word in the Hebrew concordance for Soton, meaning Satan or adversary. Satan is the adversary to Yahweh. That's what it means.
What it means is that the Earth is Satan.
Yeah.
It's a sign in space, right?
A sign in space, yeah. Here it is. So this would be the heavenly pyramid based upon the galaxy 100,000 light years diameter times pi. So one side of it being 7854 light years, that being the word for Satan, the centre of gravity at 1666.6666 light years, and it would leave 3333.333 light years to the completed height of the pyramid at 50,000 light years high. Now, if we look in the oldest book of the Bible, Job, it mentions Satan in Job 1:6, quoting, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them." And there it is, Satan, the arch enemy of good. And in Job 1:7, "And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou?" Meaning, where have you come from? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, "From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it." So Yah says here we have the oldest book, Job, the date unknown, for a good reason. The width of the Milky Way galaxy, 100,000 light years times pi, gives you 314,159 light years as its perimeter or circumference. Again, divide pi by 4 is 7854, Satan. Now the altar to the Lord, the Great Pyramid, width in inches is 9131.06 pyramid inches. That's one side. Its height, however, is 5,813 pyramid inches high, and that's with the capstone in place. However, 5,813 kilometres from the South Pole is a latitude that measures 31,680 kilometres around the Earth, and that's the latitude that Yah's home on Nell Street, Greensboro, Victoria, sits. Yah says, "My wife at that time was Mary Magdalene, Michelle and I, and she 9.42 years older than my wife today, Martha, myself. Jesus is found within 942 verses of the Compute Bible, it being accurate in numbers. The online KJV 1611 has to add 1 to the verse total to become 943.
I should comment here. When I originally did the numbers, I had a 1611 called the Red Book.
Red Letter Bible, was it, or something like that?
Red Letter Bible. So I skimmed every line, counting each Lord and each God, etc. So I made a complete list. And so forth. I was skimming it. I wasn't actually reading it. I was looking.
Yes.
But my brain is, so I read it anyhow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just what I do. And of course, whether they've changed it in the actual printed versions now, but certainly once it was online, then I just compared to what they've done online, and that was later on in after 1997, and I found that they had altered it.
Yes.
Something like the way they've altered the measuring of
Google
the
Earth.
Earth with Google Earth,
Yeah.
which we've exposed 3 times.
Yeah.
So stupid.
So here we have Milky Way galaxy on the left, 100,000 light years wide.
A very old drawing then.
And the conversion rate of the sun, hydrogen into helium, 1.008, means the house of God. It's light. King's Chamber, the 50th layer of masonry there, aligning with the height of a pyramid in space, based upon.
They've also altered the atomic weight of hydrogen from 1.008 to 1.0079. That's how stupid.
Oh God, they're ridiculous, aren't they?
How the hell do they measure hydrogen's atomic weight? Mathematics, of course.
Now, what's interesting is that the height, 5813 pyramid inches, when divided by 5, is the width of the antechamber, 116.26 pyramid inches. Now, Yah says that the galaxy center white hole, as light pours through from the dark matter heavenly side from no time.
You know, they kind of say that there's a black hole in the middle and all the stars are being pulled
sucked into it. Yeah, it's the opposite.
How dumb is that?
It's a white hole and they're all pushed out.
It's all pouring out.
Yes.
And then as it's pouring out, it's coming through as a spiral.
Yeah.
So it forms a spiral shape. So we just freeze it in time because it was created to appear to be spinning, when in fact it is spinning, but not that something that can be observed. That's not the Milky Way galaxy they're looking at there. That's another galaxy, because you can't look at the Milky Way galaxy from within it.
Right.
They estimate.
Again, the heavenly 50,000 light year high pyramid based upon the galaxy. Now, moving right along from the heavenly pyramid, indicating that Satan's been over the earth, we see that the beginning of counting time as Julian day 0 is in Gregorian time as 12 noon, January the 1st, 4713 BC. Now remember, because they added the 10 days, it meant with Yahweh's birthday would have been January the 1st without the 10 days being added. It's January the 11th, all for a very good reason. However, this is pretty remarkable. In astronomy time, it's written 12 noon and minus 4712. The position of the sun is calculated to be 6,666 kilometers to the altar to the Lord, though the altar at this point had not yet been built. Now, what is 6666? It is the number of verses in the KJV 1611 that contain the word Lord. The heavens, therefore, reveal the Great Pyramid is a reflection, and it does indeed rest on a world of Satan. However, it is the centre of the Earth landmass.
The centre of the galaxy.
Yes.
Centre of the universe.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yes. Hello. And here it is, Julian day 0, measuring to the altar to the Lord, 6666 from the sun position, which was 148,886,248.80 kilometres. And there's the sun position, or rather the earth position on the left. So though it not existed, the sun position is foretelling.
That's the moon position on the left, calculated by home planet, because it's assuming that the moon existed at that moment. It didn't know any better. So mathematically, the astronomy program will calculate, go back a million years,
Yeah.
to tell you where the moon is.
Just like the mains and the calendars.
That's right.
Mathematically,
Yeah.
they tell you 33 seconds in 500 million
There's still a
years.
message in it.
Yeah. So the program plots the moon position, even though the moon was not in space until after Mars collided with the Earth, causing the flood of Noah. The North Pole impact created Greenland, ejecting it out of the Earth as seen in its shape and the mountain heights. The Sahara Desert is sand, which is fish shit deposited on Egypt when the flood waters increased in height by 168 feet worldwide. The massive wave covered Egypt, depositing the sand from the former seas. On Mars, a Grand Canyon was formed as water rushed onto the Earth, and the one on Mars is as long as the USA is wide and 9 times wider than the USA and 6 times deeper than the Grand Canyon on Earth, carving out both Grand Canyons on Mars and Earth in just days. On Mars, the 16-mile high, 600-mile wide Mount Olympus Mons, and incidentally, the planned mission and colonization of Mars is lunacy. Life cannot exist beyond the distance the sun is from the Earth. Also, the first man on the moon must have been Stanley Kubrick, standing back from the lunar lander 30 meters, filming Armstrong descending the ladder. Or how about that no life can pass through the Van Allen belt? Yah laments that people are so stupid. And here is the USA over the Grand Canyon that was carved out on Mars. Yeah, it being as long as the width of the USA.
You see at the bottom there, Stanley Kubrick was the first man on the moon. He was, luckily he was able to see the landing and also take off. And of course, when the first man on the moon, from NASA's point of view, dropped 3 feet or so to the surface, Kubrick was there 30 meters away taking that. And then when Armstrong was later interviewed, he was asked, how far did you drop from the lander to the moon surface? He said, oh, about 6 inches. Moron. He was also a 33-degree Mason on. Now you've got the other moron doing a kangaroo hop with his sun visor up.
Yes.
And the rays of the sun are 40 times brighter on the surface of the moon, so he had his sun visor up. That's why he's stone blind today, or is he? Okay, so he was doing a kangaroo hop. There's a bit of a clue right there. Right, that's what they said, the kangaroo hop, hopping along the moon's surface.
Yes.
Now, okay, so we've got Musk wants to colonise Mars. Now, Musk appears to be a very brilliant man. He hires people with brilliance to make what he wants done. That doesn't mean that he is not a moron. He is a moron. Then we've got the owner of Amazon. When he first developed Amazon, he had 12 people putting all these books and wrapping them up and sending them out. And he was getting knee pads for them. And because they was complaining about sore knees. So one of them braved the day and they said, well, why don't we get a table? Brilliant. So he got a table to put all these books on, and that became Amazon. And he's the richest man, or one of the richest men on the planet. He's got his own rocket system, but he's going to colonise. He's going to go better than Musk, right? He's going to colonise the entire solar system.
Right.
Now, can you see going to Jupiter and trying to put a lander there?
Yeah.
You cannot live any further out than the distance that the Earth is from the Sun, and the distance in latitude is the same number in latitude as in degrees that the Earth, on the Earth where the Great Pyramid is, which is the centre of the Earth itself, which is the centre of the universe.
Yeah.
Right? Which we just explained before is Satan. I think I put in this one where the numbers all spell out the distance and the what each number at the speed of light means in kilometres per hour. So as the Earth is the centre line of the axis of the universe, doesn't mean it has a gravity that pulls the Sun to be locked to the Earth. That's not so. What it's doing is the centre line that the Earth is travelling along, it is what draws the Sun towards it. And the gravity of the Sun spreads out, not in a straight line, but fans out either side of the Earth hundreds of thousands of miles.
Yeah.
Right?
Travelling
Like a
along
huge
the
fan.
axis,
Now,
the universe axis. Yeah.
what happens is the Sun itself, the far side of the Sun is slightly drawn in, so it's an oval shape. If you could see it from the top,
Yeah.
it's an oval shape, and then it bulges out slightly. So when Mercury goes around it, it is within this gravitational field, right, that the Sun is spreading out like a fan, hundreds of thousands of miles either side of the Earth, locking onto the axis. So as the Mercury has a iron core, it is now in the shade, if you like, of gravity, and it is pulled closer to the
Toward
Sun.
the Sun, yes.
0.32.
And as it continues.
As it goes around and lines up with the Earth again, it's out at 0.46.
You mean around to the other side of the Sun, away from the Earth.
That's right. So you've got the Earth, you've got the Sun, and you've got Mercury on the far side of the Sun.
Yeah, and it's
When
further
it comes
away.
around, it gets closer to the Sun's surface.
Yeah.
Because the Sun itself is now pulled out of shape. They'll never tell you that. They probably don't even know.
Yeah.
But the shape of the Sun from above, it's slightly oval shaped.
Yes.
So it's pulled out towards this line, and the gravity of the Sun spreads along that axis point. It's not the Earth pulling on the Sun at all.
It's the axis of the universe pulling. Yeah. Okay, all good.
Same thing you'll see in Mercury, and you'll see the same thing in Mars.
Right, so that explains
They
it.
don't have any moons because of that situation.
Right.
You can't have any more than 3 when something is orbiting. That's why when they went, supposedly, the orbit range would be 60 miles out to 657 miles above the surface of the Moon.
Right.
Right? That's what the orbital mechanics software I've got tells you what it is. And you can put any size planet in there, it'll do the same thing.
Right.
Okay, so that's a brief explanation of that.
Right, so what have we got here? The Sun, so the Sun orbits the Earth universe axis. The Sun can be likened to a moon orbiting the Earth universe axis. Therefore, Mercury is a moon of the Sun, as is Venus and Mars. This is why Venus has no moon, as the limit in orbital mechanics is 3. Now, Mars gained 2 small rocks temporarily, blasted out on impact with the Earth. Now missing, those rocks are missing. The outer planets have hundreds of moons as they orbit the Earth universe axis. And the miracle here is that each of the hundreds of moons are different to all others, and no moon has any other satellite. So if we look at Julian day 0, the Earth did not have a moon, but as said, the astronomy program will calculate the moon as if it was orbiting the Earth. So we can plot this assumed position, as we saw before, at 25.06 degrees north by 121.68 degrees west. and measure to the sun distance on the Earth. It is 7,590 nautical miles. And that number, 7590, in the Hebrew Concordance is found in Ezekiel 28:26. Yah says, I must also mention the word Ezekiel, he, a contemporary of Daniel, a captive of Babylon. And the Hebrew Concordance number for the name Ezekiel is 3168, which is the Greek gematria, Lord Jesus Christ. So the name Ezekiel is only found in 2 verses in the book of Ezekiel that we'll read about next. Ezekiel 1:3, the word of the Lord came expressly to Ezekiel, number 3168 in the Hebrew Concordance, the priest, the son of Butzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Chebar, and the hand of the Lord was there upon him. Then we can read in Ezekiel 2:424, and it's interesting that 2:424 in the Greek Concordance is the number listing for Jesus. So here we have, thus Ezekiel, listed as 3168 in the Hebrew Concordance, is unto you a sign. According to all that he hath done, shall ye do. And when this cometh, ye shall know that I am the Lord God. And there Yah has it. What's the sign? 2:424 in the Greek Concordance is Jesus. And as mentioned, 28:26, the sign here is that there was no moon on Julian day 0. In reading Ezekiel 28:26, and they shall dwell safely therein, and shall build houses and plant vineyards. Yea, they shall dwell with confidence. And when I have executed judgments upon all those that despise them, 7950, round about them, and they shall know that I am the Lord their God.
Of course, unless you've been asleep, the age difference between Donald Trump and I is 2.424 years.
Which again is another
Well, I
sign.
choose who's going to be the man to do the job in the end time.
Yeah.
So I then pointed out by his age and location, where he was born, the distance to the sun and all the planets.
Yeah.
Done it all, and all says, hello, Donald.
Now, just a quote from NASA, from the internet, about the oblateness of the sun. We have found that the surface of the sun has rough structure, bright ridges arranged in a network pattern, as on the surface of a cantaloupe, but much more subtle, describes Hudson. During active phases of the solar cycle, these ridges emerge around the sun's equator, brightening and fattening the stellar waste. At the time of Ressi's measurements in 2004, ridges increased the sun's apparent equatorial radius by an angle of 10.77 plus or minus 0.44 milliarc seconds, or about the same as the width of a human hair viewed 1 mile away. Now, and the following slide is a diagram showing the sun's oblateness, which has been magnified 10,000 times for easy visibility. The blue curve traces the sun's shape averaged over a 3-month period. The black asterisked curve traces a shorter 10-day average. The wiggles in the 10-day curve are real, caused by strong magnetic ridges in the vicinity of sunspots. So this is the larger image, and then they go on to say that that may sound like a very small angle, but it is in fact significant, says Alexei Pevtsov, Ressi program scientist at NASA headquarters. Tiny departures from perfect roundness can, for example, affect the sun's gravitational pull on Mercury and skew tests of Einstein's theory of relativity that depend on careful measurements of the inner planet's orbits. Small bulges are also telltale signs of hidden motions inside the sun. That's the end of the NASA comment. Yah says that the iron core does rotate. It's caused by the northward motion, at 69,000 kilometers per hour. 3 bands rotate on the sun's surface. So you've got a band at the north and a band at the south pole, and they rotate at 29 days, while the center at the equator rotates within 25 days. And the sun pulses 6 miles wide, like breathing in and out every 4 seconds.
Why doesn't NASA talk about that? It's so obvious. I've got a program in 1990 that shows it going in and out, in and out.
Yes.
I've still got it.
Yeah. Just like a living
It's a living thing.
And it responds to the word of God.
Does. What I've drawn here is a top view looking down upon the solar system. The Earth has an iron core, Mercury has an iron core, the Sun has an iron core. The iron core of the Sun is slightly off-centre. This is also the same for the Moon, which is slightly off-centre by 40 miles. And that is why the Moon is always facing the Earth, because that iron core of the Moon is attracted to the iron core of the Earth. So it always has the same face towards the Earth. So what I'm saying here is that there's a huge difference, and the astronomers have no idea why, that Mercury ranges from 0.32 astronomical units when it's between the Earth and the Sun, and then 44 days later it is moved out to 0.46 astronomical units. A huge difference. So the solar system viewed from above, you can't see the axis of the universe here because it's going straight up through that black dot of the center of the Earth, which is the iron core. So the solar system viewed from above, the Sun is slightly bulged towards the Earth, the universe axis. Mercury orbiting the Sun is 88 days, its half orbit is 44 days. When situated between the Sun and the Earth/universe axis, pulls the Sun iron core towards the Earth. So the distance is roughly 93 million miles, or 147 million kilometres. The iron core of the Sun, magnetic attraction being off-centre, pulls Mercury towards the Sun, 0.32 astronomical units, when it's between the Earth and the Sun. So 44 days later, on the other side of the Sun, it's moved out to 0.46 astronomical units. So the Sun's gravity's magnetic pull weaker, and this is what is causing this to occur. The same effect is seen in Venus. It goes from 0.72 on the distance inside the Earth-Sun line and moves out to 0.73. The bulge towards the Earth causes the light waves to spread out, being less intense as opposed to the light if there was no bulge. In other words, it would be hotter on the Earth, much hotter. However, the surface of the Earth would be so much hotter, and is compensated by when we crossed over the Milky Way equator, and the Earth is therefore only slightly warmer. The perfect weather is today in Toogoom, while Hobart and Melbourne, where I lived, it's very, very cold. So that's a brief explanation of what's happening as we look down from above on the Earth, Mercury and the Sun.
So the Sun, though, on Julian day 0, no problem. It measures 6666 kilometres from the Great Pyramid, if it was there at that time.
How we do this, if you were to take the centre of the Earth and go up to the Sun, where would that line going between the centre of the Earth and the centre of the Sun, where would it be? And that little line there is telling you where it's coming out is 6666. This is Julian day, starting at 0. Gives you 6666 kilometres to...
And again, what's the big deal? Well, 6,666 verses in the KJV 1611 contain the word Lord. So the distance to the altar to the Lord from the sun is telling you the Lord himself.
That's right. So how many H do you see in the distance?
Oh, to the sun?
To the
1,
sun.
2, 3, 4, 5 eighths. Let's see what it says on the next slide. Yeah, so the 6666 is the word Lord verse total. The resurrection was April 5th, 33 AD, when the speed of the Earth's sun at the moment of resurrection, 66,666 miles per hour, which was exactly the same when Daphne Golightly conceived 1910 years later, April the 6th, 1943, Sydney ahead of Jerusalem by 8 hours. Now the rebirth was 280 days after conception, which is predicted by the dimensions of the King's Chamber in the altar to the Lord, calculated as 31101, that's Julian day 24-31101 was Yah's rebirth day, and it's also 31101 verses in all of the King James 1611 Compu Bible given into Yah's hand. In reality, the Great Pyramid is the centre of the Earth land mass. As such, the Earth being the centre of the universe, and this being the centre of the Earth land mass, it means that the altar to the Lord is the centre of the universe. And the missing capstone is the rejected capstone. Its present height is the Hebrew gematria for Isaiah 19:19 and 19:20. And the word is, so the height is 5449 pyramid inches up to the rejected capstone summit platform as it is now. And that's the Hebrew gematria for both those verses together.
Well, I've often thought I should type all this out and put it into a Coke bottle and drop it in the Neb Desert
for
the Hottentot to read it.
Hello, I've done that in the Book of Martha. All of that is in here, in the Book of Martha. I listed it all. Make it simple, stupid for people to understand. Anyway, the word altar itself is found on 378 occasions in the 1611 KJV, and 378 in the Greek Concordance is God will prove by coincidence.
Yes.
The altar to the Lord, the dimensions. All right, the white line through the antechamber from the great step of the Grand Gallery, the antechamber itself, 116.26 pyramid inches wide. So those three white lines that you see there, look at those, they're dimensions. When you add the three dimensions up, they total 1053.18159 inches. Multiply, so that's space. Now you've got a lunation of 29.53052 days. So you've got, when you multiply space by time, equals 31101. The Julian day that Yah was reborn on, and the number of verses in the KJV 16.
What is 2861? I'll tell you. 286 is Lamb in Greek, 1 is God, Alpha. The base of the pyramid is laid out on a solar year, 36524.24. Then the base was shrunk by 286.1. 2861 in Hebrew is espousal, male. Subtracting it from the 3652424, that number is espousal, females, plural, for the wedding. Now, out in space, the descending passage is, first off, it's built 286.1 as indicated there in the drawing. You're looking at the line into the descending passage, which goes down and then up the ascending passage. So it's all 286.1 inches off the center line, which is a white line from the copper straight up the ceiling. All right. Now, when it's looking out into space, Over a 26,000 year period, this is called the precession of the equinox. They liken it to a wobbling of a top spinning. So when it starts to slow down, the top wants to fall over. It's likened to that. What's it looking at? Well, over a long period of time, at the time of Jesus was looking at Draco, which is the dragon, which is the Lord total for the four books that come after Genesis, which is Numbers, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, and the other one. So you add up all the lords there are in that, and it is the same number in the Greek concordance for dragon, which is what the Babylonian wished they had as their god. And unfortunately, it's bullshit. So we now approach a certain date, which I won't go into now, but it's some years ago, that when you look out through the descending passage, because of this movement across space, the precession of the equinox was looking at Polaris, right? So like a Polaris 1. And then right beside Polaris, which is hard to see, because when you put your labels on a program showing space, underneath the label is a little star closest to Polaris, which is YBS 0286. 286 Lamb, and then the God being 1, 2861. So you can calculate when those two stars came into position where they were, 88.88888 blah 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 degrees in latitude or height. It's quite simple. But it will tell you that this is absolute. How come I know the things? Because I put them there. I know where to find them. It's easy. 26,000 is the age my grandfather on the Marshall side when I was born. When you do that in years, it means the end.
71.18 years.
Hebrew.
End.
So
this is Yah's rebirth day. January.
So if you can't understand it, maybe you get a 3-year-old.
Just take time to study this. It's all the glory of the Lord is revealed in the heavens.
If this don't have you trembling in your boots, something wrong with it. Are we keeping up? Now back to Einstein.
The world was looking for some math formula. He then adopted the static speed of light, unchanging, thus disproving creation and proving the universe in their minds to be 13.7 billion years old and the Earth around 4.5 billion. However, what is obvious is the position of the altar to the Lord at 299,792,458 meters per second as a latitude, 29.9792458 degrees north. So you've got the speed of light in meters as a latitude. Light from the sun speeds up as each wave repels the preceding, pushing away in all directions, thinning as it departs the sun's surface. From the gigantic gravitational forces as it overcomes gravity in a highly compressed state, temperature drops, an indication of the loss. Converted gravity losing grip. Heat into light, accelerating to reach the speed of light at the Earth orbit. The 792 is the width of the Earth, 7,920 miles. The 458 is the year in BC that Ezra from Babylon, the legacy of Satana, India, the base width number when the Cain descendants invented Abraham and Moses on down to Jacob and Israel's sons. The 2997 in the Hebrew concordance is built of Yah. In the Greek concordance, 2997 is cracked open. It was in the year 800 AD.
They say it was an earthquake. That's bullshit. It was one of the caliphs, I think, that wanted to go in and find all the gold in there because they thought it's got to be full of gold. And so what they would do was use battering rams, and then they'd heat up the area, dose it with vinegar, and this would cause the outer layer to crack. When they get inside, they couldn't find nothing, and then they heard a thud. When they heard the thud, they moved towards it and found that was covering up 3 large granite plugs for the this ascending passage up into the King's Chamber. What that means is the plugs each represented the major religions. So we've got the Babylonian Judaism Talmud, then you've got Christianity, and then you've got the Muslim belief. So there's your 3 plugs. They're 15 tons a piece or something like that, made of granite. Beauty about granite is it doesn't shrink with time. So they dug around it, got up into the King's Chamber and found nothing. So it was very disappointing. However, he was about to get lynched because he had promised his workers a share in the gold. And so what he did stopped himself getting lynched. He buried a pot of gold, and voila, they found this gold outside the pyramid, and it was just enough to cover the wages. So that was very clever of him. Then from that point onwards, the Jews, lovely people as they are, business people, used the white, pure alabaster limestone and mined it, stripping the entire pyramid, leaving only 19 blocks in place because it was covered by sand and a sandstorm. Very good reason for that, which we won't enter now. But that's what they built Cairo with. Hello.
So light is the reverse of gravity. If you were to drop a steel ball above the earth, what happens? The earth gravity pulls on the ball. It speeds up, falling faster and faster at 32 feet per second. If the air was not present to slow it down, the speed would keep accelerating. Likewise, the light is similar, but is caused to speed up, being pushed by the waves of the light behind it to reach the perfect life-sustaining speed determined by the position of the earth from the sun. Therefore, light speeding up as it escapes into space, the opposite of gravity in free fall. As said previously, the astronomy program calculates the moon position, but the moon did not exist until the planet Mars collided with the Earth, causing the flood of Noah. You can see the impact at the depressed Earth crust at the North Pole and where the moon as magma was blasted out, causing Antarctica to exist. We see the south coast of Australia was tilted up several hundred feet, causing the huge plate to tilt, opening a crack, and a sea was formed several hundred miles inland, past Pine Gap. The next 3 slides, Greenland mountains. It is an ejector impact shape. Right.
So what I did, I just measured all the heights of the mountains, and you'll find that they are all pushed up dramatically high.
Yes.
There's 40 of them. And I'll list it here, you can do it yourself. But that's what made Greenland. To your right there is Iceland. So above that is the North Pole, and the depression of the North Pole is the same shape as the radius of Mars surface. Yes.
Right, so here's the...
Now look at those heights. Something caused that, obviously.
the last 5 of the 40 mountains. Right.
So what I do with the 40 of them, which I'm not going to do now, but I measure between each. measure between those and then the distance to the North Pole. I also measure to the equator. I also measure to the Great Altar itself. I also measure to where I was born. And you know what? It's got my name on it. If you go to Sri Lanka, there are 16 rivers there that are all combined add up to 88.8 metres, kilometres.
Kilometres, average. Average, yeah. Yeah, so getting back to Pine Gap in Australia, the CIA stole a farmer's land for around 47 cents per acre. Then they had control. They drilled a hole for an antenna straight down 8,000 metres or 8 kilometres. Why? Well, most readers know about HAARP in Alaska. Pine Gap was to vibrate the solid land mass to set up a low frequency that causes Australia to be a giant woofer, infecting the atmosphere, causing drought, forcing farmers to sell out during prolonged droughts. And yeah, it measures 555 miles to the coast from Pine Gap. The word Christ is found in 555 times within 522 verses in...
You remember lightning struck
St. Peter's
Basilica
clock at 5:55 p.m. The 11th of February 2013.
What's the 11th of February?
Reggie's
Marshall's
birthday, but it was also 84 years to the day of the Lateran Treaty signing, right. And 84 is Marshall, or Emmanuel, God with us. So, no matter what goes on around the place, time or space, it all spells out your face. Alright. Okay, we went through this last night. Yeah, Paul Soul, you can read through that. I'm actually over it all.
You're over?
Over it all. Over it, Rover. Yeah, this we've done as well.
Because if the authorities in Australia ignore all this, will all the children be able to visit your gravesite?
Yeah, totally. Now, Einstein, second mistake, he did not understand the ultimate chess move was in the Word of God, bullshit Bible. Although fascinated by the Nazarene, he was not aware that Jesus was the creator and as a man subject to death on the cross. The man, Son of God, through which all things were created, Albert, a non-religious man, so missing the various references to the stretching out of the heavens contained within Isaiah and Job, etc. Had he realised the golden rule, meaning attention to detail, it would have set the stage for his realisation that the earth was the centre of creation. Then the heavens created and stretched out in all directions, according to the geocentric earth. Galileo was placed under house arrest for being so stupid to voice his agreement with Copernicus to the Pope, being that the solar system was heliocentric, sun-centred mistake. The Church already had the geocentric biblical truth. And Galileo had constructed a 10-foot long, 10-inch wide telescope with it recorded the stars in Orion, with no mention of M42, and the 4 moons of Jupiter, his drawing available for study today. It was January the 7th, 1610, he gave the telescope to the discoverer of Messier M42, or the Great Orion Nebula, it 400 parsecs from Earth and can be found in the constellation of Orion. So it was French astronomer Nicolas Claude Fabry de Peresque on November the 26th, 1610, discovered it with the same telescope. And then M42 can be seen today with the naked eye. And then after, he reported it to other astronomers and they all looked at it and was gone. And we've covered this a lot in previous uploads. However, simple math, 1610 and 1600 light years away, what was it actually historically? It was the blinking star of Bethlehem. The Talmud priests followed to Bethlehem, alerting Herod, who then killed all male babies up to 2 years of age in Bethlehem. Yeah, says, since I exposed this in 1994 on the internet from a server in Nanaimo, BC, Canada, Since the internet was not available in Port Alberni, the distance has been reduced to 1300 plus light years. 400 parsec is 1300 light years. The time from 2 BC to 1610 is 494.4 parsecs, and therefore intentionally changed. Always the checkmate. With that,
Hasta la vista, baby.
and maybe later, Gator. That's the way I'm feeling.